Welcome to the Third Knock podcast. I have Wade Simmons here with me. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Wade Simmons. I'm a funeral service worker of 16 years. Graduated from Mortuary College back in 2018. Also a filmmaker. Graduated from film school back in 2020. Been doing that almost about 9 years professionally, and trained for professional wrestling for 2 years with Chicago Style Wrestling. So I'm a jack of all trades, but a master at none of them.
That's awesome. Um, so like other guests I've had on, we just kind of talk about entrepreneurship, I like to really talk about the beginnings and the struggles, because a lot of people will talk about, oh, this is my fifth vacation, this is my brand new car, and we're all at different stages of
I was
entrepreneurship.
gonna say that must be nice.
Yeah, it must be nice, right? No, and I'm not. Just to be clear, I'm not rich like that. I mean, I bought a used car with cash, and that was a huge accomplishment for me. It's decent car, and I thought that's a big one, and that was just recently, and it feels good to know that was able to do that. But like I said, I have a long way to go. But yeah, so I like to talk about getting to where we want to be, even if we're not there, because I
I
don't think a
like
lot of
that.
people do. You know what I mean? A lot of people are just
Yeah.
like, and a lot of people front too. I meet a lot of people who pretend like they're real big, and then I meet them in real life, and I'm like, why do you do that? On your social and stuff, because you know, and then people meet you and are like, that's weird because uh so yeah, I like that. Funeral director got to be kind of interesting, like I would imagine. What is that
Well,
like?
so in the state of Illinois, I'm a funeral director and embalmer intern until I finish my internship. In California, I'm a funeral arranger until I'm fully licensed there. So, each state kind of has its own thing, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not ashamed of my story. It took me a while to get to where I was because I enrolled in mortuary school back in 2016. And back in 2017, I ended up having to start the program over. And, you know, I wasn't too happy about it at the time because I was kind of contemplating, like, you know what, why don't I just walk away from this business period and move to Arizona? Just start all over. Well, I mean, at least the weather's nice, right? But
Happy.
but I ended up getting through mortuary college by the grace of God. But that, I'm still not quite, still not quite where I want to be just yet, but I'm getting there, but it's a business that I love. I mean, I've been wanting to do this ever since I was a child. And like I tell people, I don't compare my journey to anybody else's. I know some people went to school, got everything over with right away. Well, everybody's story is not the same, so I've been taking my time getting through my internship because I'm also a filmmaker and I do other things as well. So, in that business, you see, time and life doesn't wait on anybody. So, you got to enjoy your life too. So I'm just kind of building it. And then too, with the way things are going in the world nowadays, I don't know. I personally think that you have to really kind of be doing multiple things nowadays. It's just the way things are looking right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I'm 100%. You got to almost have multiple streams of income. You almost have to do so many things and I don't think a lot of people, when they get into it, they understand that it's almost like you have to put on a different hat every part of the day. It's like, I have to market myself. I have to make sure I'm doing social media. I have to make sure that I'm doing all these different things that you never thought you had to do. It's like, why would I have to do that?
You know what? It's amazing that you say that because I know, like, to me, that's why, like, I kind of hold the belief that I think that everybody should be known for what they do. And I'm not speaking in the sense of fame because some people will take that, if everybody wants to be famous. No, I mean, we have kind of put this idea that, like, that fame just automatically means that, like, you're rich and all that. No, everybody should be known for what they do because everybody has a gift, a talent, a skill that can be used in this earth. And I think that if you don't let the people know what you do, how they gonna know? Because the people are not necessarily looking for people. So you have to you have to put yourself out there because, like, a lot of times when people create businesses and stuff, a lot of times people think, oh, because people know me most of my life or I know them most of it, but that doesn't mean that people are gonna come to you, or that doesn't mean that people are going to use your service or people are going to support you. I mean, I'm grateful for the people that have supported me. I'm grateful to everybody, whether they support or not. But my thing is just, in business, you just can't assume because people know you that they're going to use you. So you have to put your business out there, not in a way that like, oh, I'm better than this person. No, it's just the way it goes. It's just promotion. That's all. Everybody is somebody.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And it's the world has changed. It's not what it was, not very long ago, but people should take pride in what they do. I don't care what it is you do for a living or your life. You should take pride in it. It should be something that you're proud of. It should be something that. But I think a lot of people now, they just show up, get the check, and they go home and they don't care whether they did a good job or not. And
That's
that's a
terrible.
sad.
That's
No, it is. And
that's
I
terrible.
experienced that. Like, I have to fix my own cars, not because I don't have the money to pay someone to fix it, but every time I pay somebody to fix it, it comes back with something else broken or the same problem still exists. And it's like, I don't want to work on this. I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't, my dad was a mechanic. This isn't, I'm not a mechanic. Like,
I
like,
think I think what people have to realize is that when you have business, you should always keep your integrity. Always be right towards people, because but be honest, because I feel like when people try to get over on people, they end up paying for it in other ways. So it just really pays to be as fair as you can with people. And that's why I always say, like, when I do business with people, like I work with people. I'm not the type of person that's out here just trying to get every client I can get. Like, that's not me. Like, if you want to use what services we bring, or what is film related or funeral service or whatever, we're here for you if you need us. But I mean, but there's a lot of great people out here doing a wonderful job. I don't step on anybody's toes. Like, I understand everybody's just trying to make an honest living for themselves, but I just think that in all things it's good to be fair and honest with people. So that's why, like I said, I'm more of a how can I say this? I'm more of somebody that likes to educate rather than the salesman. I don't I did work in life insurance temporarily for a little while, and that just, selling people things is just not my
no, we're on the same page there for sure. My mom's a realtor, and I learned a lot of sales from her. And her whole sales training was, well, I just try to get them the best house, and I listen, and I try to get them what they want. It's like, if you do that and you care, people are going to trust you and want you to help them, no matter what you do. So
Absolutely.
so I think that that's important. I agree with you about the integrity, doing your thing. And it's like houses now. You buy a new house and they almost break faster than the older homes because people are just cutting corners trying to get a buck.
Yeah, you know what?
And
When I first, and this is back previous to a previous conversation we just had, but when I first bought my van for my mortuary transportation service, when I first bought my van, I bought a Honda Odyssey 2002, and I just sold it a couple of weeks ago, finally. And I paid cash for it. Like me, I'm one of those people too. Like, this is just, I know everybody has a different business model, but me, I like to just have things paid off coming in the door. Like, I don't like unnecessary debt. I know sometimes people always say everybody gonna leave here owing somebody something, but I don't owe nobody nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a type of person where I'm not a very lavish guy. And I take pride in it. Like, I'm not very materialistic. I understand in business you want to have, something nice, because you're, picking up people's loved ones, and you want you
press.
want you want things to look nice. But to me, I'm not just about looks. It gotta really be genuine and honest, because looks can be deceiving sometimes. So I tell people that you have to keep your integrity, in the front and in the back.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's crazy. It's some people. And like I said, I grew up with not very much money most of my life. Most of my role models were just really high integrity people who your name means something, your integrity means something. When people hear this, they shouldn't think of you as in a negative thought because you didn't give them a reason to think that. um so I agree with you. And unnecessary debt, I'm the same way. I'm like, first of all, I work mostly from home, so why do I need a fancy vehicle to drive around? I don't leave. My daughters, I have teenage daughters. They're taking my car, or well, my one daughter anyway, is taking my car all the
Yeah.
time. She's driven it way more than me ever.
That's
And
true. Well, but I put it like this for the business that I'm doing right now. I mean, I work on a call basis, so if I don't get any calls, then by the grace of God, I got to figure things out. So to me, what I do is that I make sure that I get things that I know I can pay for. I don't try to because I feel like this hustle culture thing is I'm not knocking anybody else, but for me, it's like why add any unnecessary stress on yourself? Like I said, yes, you want to have something nice, but you also want to have something where you're not creating a whole lot of debt for yourself. And where you got to be like, oh man, I got to make sure I pay this. I got to make sure I pay this car note. Like, no, I keep the insurance paid, and then I just use what I got till by the grace of God I can do a little bit better. But I'm not out here trying to compete with anybody, or I know I'm not gonna put myself in the situation where I'm stressing myself out. Like, no, and then if I got a day where I get called to work on the film set or whatever, then I can just say, okay, I'm going, go make a little money over here and do this. I ain't swimming in money, trust me, but everything that I'm doing, I'm grateful to God that I'm able to do it. And like I say, it may not be a whole lot of money, but I like what I do, you know.
no, I feel the same way. Like, no, it's part of the. I think that's what when you're an entrepreneur, that's what matters. Though it's always feast or famine. You're either living, you're eating the lobster and everything. You got the steak, all the money's coming in, or it's like you got one job, and it's like so. It's important to learn how to balance that because if you can balance your money to where you can save it instead of having a bunch of debt, like you're saying, if you have all this debt and you have to pay all these bills and all these things during the feast, all you're doing is paying, 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 and during the famine, you're drowning because you don't have the
Yeah.
money to pay. And that's why I always, when I first started, I tried to keep everything really low. I lived in this little 600 square foot home, and so just to keep everything low, And then I went through a divorce and stuff, and that went out the window. But there was nothing I could do at that point. So
Yeah, stuff. Look, life happens. Sometimes you don't want these things to happen, but I just learned that that's why I like as a person, and as a believer in God, you just try not to let the things you go through in life break you because I don't care how much money somebody have or don't have. Everybody's gonna have obstacles. Everybody's gonna have problems. It's just part of life. It's just part of life.
yeah, definitely. So what is Like, you got to have an idea in your mind of where, like, basically, I could tell you mine, but you have an idea in your head where this is what it looks like to have made it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Right now, I'm grateful. I love that I am, like, where I'm at now, I'm comfortable, which is kind of a bad thing because when you get into comfortable, you stop chasing that dream a little bit. It's like, oh, this ain't so bad. I can deal with this the rest of my life. But it really isn't my dream. What is your dream look like? Like, what would that be? You woke up
Probably
tomorrow.
Probably for me to where I can probably go around and just check on people, and I don't have to worry about, like, money or anything like that. That's more so my thing because, like, I feel like, we get so caught up in what we do. We get so caught up in chasing money, but at the end of the day, sometimes just spending time with the people that you love and care about, I think to me that's what brings me the most joy. Just it don't matter if I known somebody for 10 minutes or if I known them for 20 years or 30 years. Like I like being around people and just checking in on people and making sure they're good. I think that that's something that really more so brings me joy. Just I don't know. I like people. I understand that you have to be discerning and alert, and being kind doesn't mean that you're naive or anything, but I don't know. I just like checking on people. But when I ain't got to worry about bills and stuff, and I can just go around and see about people, I think I made it.
No, that's yeah, I actually just like about a year ago, I started a journey to where I want to help 100,000 people. And so I've started I have my actual thought process when somebody needs help is if you can help them, you should. So I always am asking myself, can I help this person? Can I do that? And it's like if I can, I do. And that's just from all my different skill sets. And I always wanted to. I always wanted to start a nonprofit and basically like teach people how to become entrepreneurs, how to get a business license, how to do these things, even probably pay for them, help them build a website, help them do these things and these steps. and it always held me back because there's all these red tape. There's all the,
Oh yeah, yeah,
it
that
takes a
red
lot of
tape.
money to start a nonprofit. You have to have a board. It's like, you have to have all these people a part of your board, and you have to do a background checks and all this. And it's not that I won't pass them and all that. It's just, it's a lot of money and a lot of risk for something that, so I always was just kind of holding back to try to do it. And then eventually I just woke up and was like, you know what, what's stopping me from helping just people? Um,
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. Sometimes people just want you to know that you care. Like,
absolutely. Yeah,
some,
red tape is one of them things where every industry deals with it to a certain degree. It's just about in every industry that it's just there's always some type of obstacle there to push you back or further away or whatever, or to help somebody else get ahead while other people. That's just the nature of things. But that's why, like I always say, that like being grateful and content and just being grateful and thankful to me is more important because sometimes, like people sometimes want to be like all the way at the top. I don't
Mhm.
really I think all that stuff is superficial. Like I just like to do what I like to do and I like to be out of the way. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't trying it was kind of the same way when I trained for pro wrestling, right? Like a lot of people thought because I trained pro wrestling, like are you gonna try to go to TNA or AEW or WWE? Like no, I wanted to make a documentary. I wanted to do it as a hobby. Like just because you have interest does not mean that you don't have to turn everything into like just trying to go to all these different places and stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not knocking anybody for it, but to me, a lot of times people seek out the things thinking that it'll make their life better. And then you get there and then you be like, you know what? Maybe this ain't what I wanted. So if you
Yeah.
do it in the way that you want to do it, you'll always be grateful. And I like to, and it's the same thing with the funeral business, same thing with filmmaking. Like I just like to do it like Frank Sinatra. I'm doing it my way.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel you on all that. Like, I kind of want to be at the top, but it's for different reasons because I grew up poor, and when you grow up poor, I never want to be poor again. I don't want my kids to be poor. I don't think anyone should ever be poor.
No,
I,
well, I put it like this. I put it like this. I don't think none of us want to. I don't think any of us want to be poor. But like I said, I don't. I'm not seeking to be the richest man in the world either. Like I wouldn't want to have that much money and then people around me suffering. Like I think that's I don't know. That's just not something that I'm interested in. I mean, everybody want a little bit of money. You know what I'm saying to make ends meet or whatever. But I don't. Because I mean, I feel like at that level, it creates other type of problems for you. Even if it means like other people wanting to buy your businesses and even if they gotta do something. You know what I'm saying? Well, I ain't even gonna get in there, but you know where I'm going.
no, no, no. I know what you're saying. To me, though, if I had that, I could help more people. So it's not that I just want to be at this status and be like, oh yeah, I'm a celebrity, I'm this, I'm that. I'm living my best life ever and
Yeah,
have 4 mansions while everybody else is suffering. No, it'd be more like with that, now I can cut all the red tape out and actually create the nonprofit. Now that I
yeah,
have this and I see somebody who's really struggling and it's financially, I can actually step in and help them versus as an example, oh, they can't, their washer's broken or their dryer's broken or whatever it may be. And it's like, hey, I can help them right now by helping them fix it. But if I had the financial status, I could just come in and show
absolutely.
up and be like, look, here's a brand new one. Like, you
And,
don't even
and
have to
see,
do it.
but see also, but this goes into like unity and community as well, because that's why, like I said, that everybody should be known for what they do. Because if you think about it, like if this person is a mechanic, this person is a filmmaker. This person is a doctor. This person is a lawyer. This person is a mortician. This person, this person maybe makes clothes. Like I feel like if you have people that have certain skills, this is what kind of being able to work together comes in. So that's why, like I said, I'm a big fan of everybody being known for what they do because I think it's so important because a lot of times we do need things to be done and sometimes we go looking all over for somebody, but we got somebody right next to us that can do the job.
Oh, it's true. It's true. I've even had friends be like, I didn't know you did this. Like, because it's like, I don't really want to promote my business to my friends or family. Like, what I mean? It's like, I just want to hang out and have a good time. Like, have a barbecue, maybe go and, play some games, play some horseshoes, play
and
some,
sometimes but I think sometimes, sometimes people are aware that people can do things, but I think sometimes people are just so used to things being so commercialized in a big way to where sometimes they overlook certain people. Like this happened to me one time. I got one of my little cousins, he's doing a phenomenal job in the entertainment industry, and he's acting and doing different television shows or whatever. And I remember it was one podcast. She was listening to my story or whatever, and she was like, "You know what? I want to have your cousin on." And so when I talked to him about being on, like he declined, but I'm like, "See, if you would have asked me, I would have did it."
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Um, yeah, no, I don't know how you could be like an embalmer and stuff. That stuff's crazy. Like in my prior, I was a plumber once, and I actually was doing work in a mortuary, and I was sitting
Yeah.
here. I'm saying I got the water off, I got the pipe cut, I'm getting it cleaned up, I'm getting ready to, and now there's a body in the room with me, a cadaver or whatever you want to call it. So I'm sitting there, and the power goes out,
Uh-oh.
and and I'm like, and I don't get spooked real easily, but I'm like, okay, like, did somebody, is it because the lights are all like on a timer, because I don't know, I don't really know what's going on. I'm just, so I'm like trying to search in my bag to find my light, and I finally find my light, and once I leave the room, I realize it's the whole building because there's no power anywhere. It's only me and the one guy there, so I'm trying to find him, but they're usually a big place. Like, I don't know where I'm
You
at.
know what? You just took me back to when I used to spend nights at the funeral home every Saturday night for, I think, about 4 years. I worked overnight on Saturdays. And it was one particular night I was sitting in the funeral home and I was like nodding off, half sleeping. I woke up and I saw somebody walk past on the camera. So my first thought was like, oh no, wait a minute now. I ain't never drunk nothing in my life. I don't know what's going on here, but then so I kind of I'm like I got ready to call the owner and say, y'all got to get somebody else. Like you got me 4 years, but I walked out and I went back into the office and somebody had left the camera on from the previous workday.
Oh. Yeah, there's usually an explanation, but most of the time we let our brains play tricks on us.
Yeah, well,
Once
that
you get
caught me
that
off
heart
guard
beating,
because I was sleeping good, man.
once that heart starts beating, like I saw I saw an ad for basically like you're basically security, I'm guessing, but you can live at this mortuary. Basically, you live there. It was like real cheap. Rent was like $400 a month. All you had to do is just make sure no one broke in or whatever. I'm like, who's breaking into a mortuary? Like,
Well, look, but you know what? You never know.
no, you never know. Yeah, you never.
Stranger things, stranger things have happened. But I worked at a funeral home for 13 years. I've been in the business 16 years, and now I'm more on the mortuary transportation side the last 3.5 years now. But to be honest with you, like I said, it was always a passion of mine from when I was younger. And yes, you do need someone to be in there because no, put it like this, nobody's loved ones really should be left unsecured. I mean, because we live in a crazy world and there's I don't like to say crazy, interesting people in the world. I put it like that. And you never know, man. You like I kid you not. I remember one night when I was working at the funeral home at night too. There was a group of young guys. I was walking past, and like I always kept the lights out because I didn't want nobody to know, see me
Yeah.
up in there, But I seen a group of young guys. They were right there, like pulling on the door or whatever, and then they saw me. So you just never know. Sometimes people don't, people may think it's money or whatever in there. You never know. So you should always have somebody, and yes, you should have somebody that is armed. I'm an advocate for that. I don't. I rather people take another route, but you just have to protect yourself.
Yeah, you never know what people's intentions are. That's the problem. And like you said, being kind and trying to help people, it can be it can put yourself in dangerous situations sometimes. But
Yeah.
if you're not naive and you're paying attention, because it doesn't make us stupid that we want to help people. But even though some people, sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes,
Oh
so
no,
I,
you never let your guard down. Like I say,
yeah,
I'm not a type of person that walk around thinking the whole world is out to get me and nothing like that. But I believe there's a lot of kind people in this world, but I also think there are people who prey on people's kindness. So I just tell everybody to be watchful, to be vigilant, to be alert, you know, because it's, not everybody has the best motives or intentions, because I know there were times where people would be on the side of the road like they need help and then try to stick somebody up or something, so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you got to always be careful out here, man. This world is full of all kind of people, so you just have to be, you know I hope we all are being kind to one another, but at the same time we still should always be discerning, because like I said, it's some interesting people in the world. I just say it like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's because they don't feel they have a choice. Other times, maybe drugs or alcohol or whatever. You just don't know. Or maybe it's mental health. Maybe it's, then obviously there is evil. I mean, at least for me, I believe there is evil. I've seen it. But, and for whatever reason, usually I can feel that there's something off
Yeah.
or something wrong. You get that feeling and yeah, I don't know how to explain that, but
Man, I remember one time, I'll never forget this. I was getting off a film set and we were filming at we got done filming at like 3 a.m. in the morning. And when we got through filming, we had, went to this hotel because that was our meetings place. And then you know how they do, they take
Mhm.
you to the set, then they bring you back to the place you met at or whatever. So I should have probably took an Uber home. But me trying to save myself a little money, I said, "No, I'm gonna take the train home." So I
Yeah.
went out there walking to the train, and I couldn't bring my friend with me. So I said, "I ain't doing this no more."
Yeah.
Kind of dangerous out here walking around at night like that, and you got different people walking the streets. And I'm gonna be honest, I love people, and I hate to see people who have been abused in their life, or people who are struggling with certain things and they don't have the proper help, because sometimes we take things personal, but it's nothing personal. But when you see somebody that's out of their mind like that, and you got to be careful out here, because somebody can end up getting hurt, and that's not a good thing. So I'm like, you know what? I ain't finna put myself in that situation. So next time, either I'll just Uber or whatever, whatever. But I ain't. Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely areas and times you wanna avoid almost anywhere. I mean, I've I've been around certain areas and been like, "Oh, man, what am I doing here at this time, and why didn't like you said, why didn't I just take an Uber? Why didn't I do this or
Yeah,
that?"
like I was downtown Chicago, like trying to just
Oh,
trying to
man.
call myself safe a little bit of money, but I'm like, sometimes it's like, nah, it's better off just I ain't had no business out there like that. But I really do hate, like you said, if God blessed me to where I had more, I would more than happily, try to make a difference for people to, not be in these type of situations. But sometimes I don't know, man. I'm always gonna be an advocate for people with mental issues and things of that nature, because I have family members that deal with that. So I love people, man, and I don't like to see people get hurt, and I ain't trying to let nobody hurt me either. You know what I'm saying? So I just know next time to, like, okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, no. I love people, but I also hate people. It's kind of this love-hate kind of relationship, and I think it's because I have ADHD. I have certain things in myself, and throughout my years, people have treated me bad or poorly, and that gives you this. I had a hard time in school. In fact, I barely went to school, if I'm being honest with you. I ended up getting my GED, but basically, I couldn't go to school because of social anxiety and ADHD, and I would literally make myself physically ill. I would be sick. It would be like the stomach flu every day because of just worrying and no reason. It wasn't like I was worried somebody's going to beat me up or anything. It was just people make snarky comments or treat you poorly,
yeah,
and it's like I don't want to go somewhere everyone's just treating me bad. Like, why would anyone want
yeah,
to do that? And
yeah.
so
But you
that
got
developed this hate or this
yeah.
dislike of people. But now that I'm older, like, it's like I got to get out there because there's other people out here that are like me. There's got to be other people that care about people. There's got to be some good people, you know?
It's some beautiful people in the world. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, but I'm
yeah.
just saying that sometimes we don't know what other people been through. And sometimes, even people who even people who do certain things, it's not to set out to say that they're a bad person. Sometimes when you don't know, you don't know. You know, people only know what they know. But my whole thing is, like I said, you know, ain't nobody just gonna let nobody hurt them either. I don't care how understanding we are, but it's a certain place where the line gotta be, drawn. So that's why, like I say, to me, I just try to love and respect and treat everybody. But yes, you know, I've dealt with people who were kind of mean, and I remember, and I talk about this quite a bit when I trained for professional wrestling. There was this female wrestler. She was something else. You know, I never called nobody name because I'm not trying to put nobody out to anything, but she was kind of mean, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no,
And
I
like
can feedback.
kind of bullyish or whatever, man. Like, and so I do believe those stories when people talk about how like some people might have tried to bully them or whatever. And me being a man, I always have to remember at the end of the day that was a woman. So I still was respectful. And like I said, I don't wish any bad on anybody because like I said, I try to treat everybody with kindness. But I am aware that not everybody is going to like you, or not everybody is going to be kind to you, because you know, people sometimes, what Michael Jackson said is human nature. But I just tend to live my life treating everybody with respect because I believe everybody's made in God's image. So who am I to mistreat his creation? So me personally, I don't want to mistreat anybody. Like I take pride in making sure that I treat people with the same respect that I would want to be treated. But like you said, not everybody in this world is gonna be kind because not everybody is mature enough to embrace that. Cause like even when I look at social media, like me, I'm one of the people where if I see something about somebody, I'm not commenting on it because I don't know this person. I don't know their situation. Like I see a lot of videos of, you know, people probably not in the best circumstance, and then everybody's just giving their opinions and stuff. But
Yeah.
how I'ma judge a situation that I know nothing about? You know, I think in all fairness, you know, that I try not to bash people. Like I don't get on that train because I believe in treating people with respect. And like I said, I don't know this person. This person could be having a rough day. Like if I see somebody in a restaurant, maybe they go off or whatever, but you never know what people are going through. So like I don't like to like, you know, laugh at other people hurting one another, or, you know, sometimes now there do be some funny stuff out there, I'm not gonna lie, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I don't really take pride in seeing people hurt one another, you know?
Yeah, there's good taste and bad taste for sure. Things that are done in poor taste generally aren't funny, and they're generally it's somebody's real life. And I think social media has distanced a lot of people in that way, to where people say things online that they wouldn't say in real life. Like and I hate that we use in real life, by the way, because it
It
is
is.
real life. Like,
Well, you know
you
what?
know, my
You know,
kids are
funny
always like IRL, and I'm like, this is real life. We're in
well,
real
you know
life
what?
right now. Like,
I think social media has kind of made everybody television stars in a sense, right? Like everybody is a star nowadays, right? Everybody nowadays, literally everybody is a public figure now. Because when you put any information out there about yourself, any photographs, any videos, it's public. It's public information. And once it's public, everybody's a public figure. So, but I think that, you know, people should be mindful that, you know, people are human beings with souls and feelings, and so it's never a good thing to just come out and just start bashing other people and stuff like that. Like I've never been a person that did that. And then too, like I said, when I came across people that were kind of unkind to me, I really didn't even pay them no mind. You know, they would say something to me, I said, "Well, that's your world, not mine. Have a nice day." That's a lovely shirt you got on, by the way. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And no, and I love how you talked about some people aren't mature enough because I look back, I wasn't kind to everyone, obviously, when I was a kid and a teenager. And I looked back as I got older, after I went through a horrible marriage and all these things crashed down around me. I had a lot of time when I was away from my kids because I was fighting for custody, which I eventually got. But at that time, I had a lot of time on my hands of thinking, and for whatever reason, I kept thinking back of people who I had been mean to or did things that I shouldn't have done. And so it was like, and I had never had social media until that point. So this was only like 10 years ago. And so I got social media. So I'm like, I can look up all these people. This is awesome, And I'm like I'm messaging people being like, remember when high school or junior high when I called you this name or whatever. And they're like, I don't remember that. And I'm like, well, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm
But you know
really
what? But I like that you were willing to. I like that you were at least willing to embrace it.
but the
I,
majority of them were really just blown away. Like whether they remembered or not, they pretended they didn't. And it wasn't big things. It wasn't like I went out and broke somebody's legs or or stalked their house or burnt their house. You know what I mean? It was just like little stupid things. I was a teenager and made mean comments or made them feel not welcome. Stupid things. And but it lingered on me, and I had to at least try to make
Yeah,
amends.
you know what's funny about that? I remember one time when I was in elementary school, I think something happened, and me and this young lady had words. I think I might have been in it, maybe eighth grade. And after we had words, it was kind of funny because I said something to her, and when I walked outside, I looked up. She was waiting on me outside. I said, "Oh," so I ain't gonna lie, I took out running, man.
Oh, yeah. But it's good because that's growth. That's like I said, we mature, like you said,
Yeah,
mature
look,
enough. And then now that I'm mature enough, I understand that,
yeah.
how to
But one
control
thing I learned
emotion.
though from that day, that young lady taught me one thing, that's why
People,
you
you can
gotta be
push
careful.
people.
You gotta be careful with when you take people to that place, because like I said, what I've learned about people is that whenever somebody do things to people, we are no longer responsible for the consequences. So
Yeah.
that's why I always say it's just easier to be kind to people and treat people with respect. And yes, that young lady to that day, she is super cool, by the way, but she taught me a valuable lesson in elementary school.
It's like, catch me outside. Like, waiting for you. Wow. The only time I had that happen was, like I said, but that was something I didn't do. And like I said, I have a big, long story about, like I said, my marriage that was awful to a narcissist that borderline probably psychopath. But there was a lot that went on, and she actually went in and got a restraining order on me, and she was waiting for me outside the courthouse. This after they gave her a restraining order. She was trying to keep me
Yeah.
from seeing my kids. And the judge is like, I'm not putting a restraining order on him between the kids. He's not, and he even asked her like 4 times, are you sure this isn't just out of like, you're trying to basically see, they see that. And I think he knew, but the problem is if somebody wants one that, and they can,
Yeah.
it was a wild thing. So they gave her this restraining order. She's waiting for me outside the courthouse doors. I'm like, there's a restraining order. What is going, like, I can't even leave now. Like, what does this mean? Like, and we had to get the constable to actually remove her from the property. I'm like, does that sound like someone that's afraid of me? Like,
You know what?
like,
There's a saying and it's a song. There's a thin line between love and hate, right?
yeah, yeah, no, that was, but I'm just like, whoa, who does that? Like, this is wild. Like, the judge should see this, right? Like, when you're afraid of someone, like, you don't wait for them outside the building. And then she went over and was waiting at the car, and the constable's like, you can't, no, you gotta go.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, that was,
Look, I told you life is sometimes that's why I say people are very interesting.
yeah, yeah,
That's
you
that's
never know
that's
what's going through other
that's
people's
the best
minds.
way. That's the best way I can describe it. But like I said, I try not to, have any, bad blood with anybody. Like I try not to. And like I said,
Yeah,
I don't really feed into things too much. Like look, I've been dealing with people. We all have been dealing with people a very long time. So as you get older and mature, I feel like you learn how to just not sweat the small stuff. It's not
yeah,
really worth it. Like, you could be doing better things with your life and with your time.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So what's wrestling like? What made you interested in that? What's that like? What does that feel like for you? Like,
I, I wrestled in high school,
okay,
and I remember freshman year I was on the team and I quit. And I said, you know what? My senior year, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna finish the season. So I went, I went back and wrestled my senior year, and I stayed with the team the whole season. And so after that, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what? I would love to be at a school that have like wrestling, but because I went to school to be a mortician, the schools I went to, they didn't
right.
have any wrestling team and no sports team or nothing like that. It was a strict trade school. So when the time came, like when I graduated out the film school, I'm like, you know what? I want to make a documentary on pro wrestling. And so I reached out to a guy by the name of Steve Boz. Steve Boz wrestled in WWE back when it was WWF for some time. He's been on the independent scene for a very long time, but I reached out to him and he invited me to come to the show. But at that time, I was working full time at the funeral home, so I had to get there when I could. So I finally got to the chance to go to the school, and he introduced me to all the different wrestlers and stuff like that. And everybody was nice at first. But he's always been nice though. But when we were standing in the middle of the ring, and so we got to talking, and so he like, when you gonna start training? I was like, I can't make a documentary but not training, but since you asked, I'll start next week. So me and my friend Jayla from high school, we just started training right then and there. For the most part, we had a blast. We met a lot of wrestlers from AEW and even some former WWE wrestlers. We met Hornswoggle, Scotty 2 Hotty, Carlito. Quite a few different people came to our show. But like I said, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I did kind of, you know, deal with the situation with the one wrestler, but everybody else was pretty cool, you know. But you always got one, right?
Well, yeah, and back, and I'm guessing, this is a while back, and at times were a little bit different. You generally was, I don't want to use foul language, but an a-hole. You generally almost always encountered at least one a-hole, at least back in time. It seems
Well,
like as we get older,
the funny part about it was this was a female wrestler. Like this was like I don't understand it, but I don't know. But like I said, I don't I don't wish no harm on. I'm very proud of everybody who has accomplished something. Like I said, one thing about me, I'm the type of person where like if I see somebody and I want to help you get better, I'm gonna help you get better. I'm not gonna try to belittle you or degrade you or
yeah,
you know
yeah,
it's and I get it, it's wrestling, right? So, you gotta be tough or whatever. But at the same time, let's be real in the real world. I don't care what your occupation is. When you don't know people, you can't play with everybody like that. Everybody's not gonna everybody ain't cut out that way. See me, I'm the type of person where I'm a little more direct.
excuse me.
I don't disrespect anybody, but I try not to let people disrespect me either.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting world. I can tell you're passionate about what you do, though. You even just talking about wrestling, you almost glow. You got this, right? And it's kind of like what I'm talking to people about. I have a lot of well, I try to have a lot of hobbies. But but I'm not very good at any of them. Not my hobbies anyway. Like, and I'm trying.
That's all
I'm trying to
right.
get
But you
better.
know what? I would tell anybody that it doesn't matter if a person like, the world sometimes make people feel like, well, this is not for this person. Really, you can do whatever you put your mind to. I mean, you don't have to be great at everything, but it's your life. Like there are people like I was just talking about this on another platform, but there are some people out here who like to sing. Maybe according to other people, they may not have the greatest voice, but if a person likes singing, who am I to tell them not to sing? Like I think that everybody's different. Everybody's not the same on some things. We have similarities, but everybody has a different mindset. Some people like you got people that like playing basketball. Maybe they not the greatest player, but they like to play. I can shoot a couple of threes.
Yeah. No, long as you're happy and you're having a good time and it's a hobby, then it doesn't matter how bad I mean, it can matter. Some people may not want to play with you, but but if it, but it doesn't matter that you're not a pro. It doesn't matter that, I'm out here. I like metal detecting to a degree, and I'm out here metal detecting. It's like, oh, I'm gonna dig up treasure, but it's almost always trash, and it's like that's
Yeah.
okay though. It's the excitement because all it takes is that one time, you dig up trash 1,000 times, and then you dig up some gold earrings and you're like, oh my gosh, like, it's not like they're worth tens of
But you
thousands
know
or
what?
anything.
But what I believe is like no matter who a person is, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I don't care if they're an NBA player, if they're a movie star, if they're, a carpenter, plumber, mortician. Like everybody has something they're good at, and everybody has something that maybe they need to work on. And then everybody has some stuff that maybe no matter how hard they try, maybe that's just not a skill set that they have developed just yet. But I always say this, but it doesn't mean that a person can't be great at what they do, because when you look at any business, that you need people for all sorts of things. So it's just like in the funeral business, right? Like there are some people who are good embalmers. There's some people who went to school to learn how to embalm, but maybe they learned it, but maybe their skill set is not. Look, it's same thing like you were a plumber. Like they can teach you things, but you kind of have to master it, and everybody don't master everything the same way. So to me, I think that it's just important for people to just accept the fact that all of us have gifts and skills, and maybe we're more talented in this area, but maybe we need to brush up here. And it's just to be human. Like, even with entertainment, right? Like I know like how people get awards for the best director or the best this or best that, but to tell you the truth, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. A lot of times people's weaknesses are kind of masked, They're kind of masked a little bit because you don't see that side of it because you're looking at the strength. But everybody has something that they got to work on. It's part of being human. And I know we're making AI and robots, but it was made by man. So guess what? They gonna have flaws too.
And they do, and it's I'm itching at getting. I want to get a robot so bad. I want it's like no more laundry for me. It's gonna take out the trash. It's gonna and now I can focus on what's important to me instead of having to do these other things. But
until the robots start saying that, well, I think I want a day off too.
yeah. Until the robot starts, who knows? Plotting against me.
I was in San Jose like last week, and I noticed when I was at the airport, I saw they had a robot in there working. That was pretty. I said, "Wow, I feel like we live in the Star Wars now."
Yeah, like some of the stuff, like 3D printers. I really like 3D printing, but I've wanted to smash that machine more times than I can tell you. Man, so many things have gone wrong, but when it works and you get things tuned in just right, like that's that's what I think of, like Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever. I'm like, this is a replicator. I can build anything.
But again, but again, everything is trial and error. Like, it's that's why I always say, even some of the people that we know that are so gifted and so well received and so well respected, and everybody has flaws or things that they have to work on. Like you got players in the NBA, they were good at shooting threes. Maybe some people need to work on their free throws. Or some people were just good at doing different things. So like that's why I'm a fan of not comparing people, because I feel like we get so caught up in this world of trying to like compare people. Like, well, this person is greater than that person. No, I think that God has given everybody gifts, and so I don't really look at nobody as greater than the next person. I just look at everybody as the best at being themselves. Because I don't really compare. Like I know people like to compare like LeBron and Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, but all of those are three individual people who have their own
all have
skill
their own
sets and
skills.
talents.
Yeah.
So I'm not comparing anybody, because I feel like when we look at our own lives, a lot of times we don't like to be compared. So if I don't like to be compared, why would I compare other people? To me, it just doesn't make sense. It's like you're trying to say, well, this person is greater because of this or that, instead of just saying that's amazing that this person was able to do this.
Well, I
I
think we get
I'm
caught up
sorry.
on technicalities, I think, is what it comes down to. Because I mean, LeBron, and then when you go into Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan was one of the greatest ball players of all time. And don't get me wrong, I think LeBron is as well. They have different skill sets, and they are in a different era. You got to remember,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was during the era of basketball as an all-time high of watching and viewing, and I mean, we had a lot of good players in that era. So it was like it's hard to get that. It's hard to replicate those things because LeBron isn't in that same era to where it was so popular, I should say, because I don't think basketball is nearly as popular as it was during that time compared to
Well,
now.
but I think even now, I think the thing about it is that because now we have social media,
And
and
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
now there's more things because I know like the same thing with wrestling, right? Like a lot of times, me and some of my buddies talk about how like a lot of people be like, man, wrestling back then, the wrestlers today, ain't like, yeah, you know what? We're in a different era. That's like
Yeah,
comparing the Flintstones to the Jetsons, right?
exactly, exactly.
It's two different eras. So of course you're not gonna have Stone Cold Steve Austin or the Undertaker or Kane or the Road Dogg or people like that, or D'Lo Brown or The Rock. Of course you're not gonna have Mark Henry, these guys, because these guys are retired. You know,
Right,
they
right.
were there for a certain time period, and when they first came, they were new. You know what I'm saying? So to me,
Everybody was complaining about them, being like, "Why aren't they more like Hulk or Mr. T?" Or like, and don't get me wrong, like I watched back then too. I was probably only like 4 or 5, but it's closer to home for me, like Stone Cold and The Rock and things like that, and it seemed more entertaining. But we always were debating at that time, is it real? Is it not
yeah,
real? Because it was like everybody's portraying that this was real, and nobody would give you an answer whether it was or wasn't. So we're all like, I'd have friends be like, it's real. It's look at this. Look, pause it right here. Boom, look, you see this real. And then I'd have other friends that are like, no, you can see it's fake. Look, it's fake. And it's like everyone's going back and forth. And so I think it had a little bit more hype behind it because we didn't really know whether it was real or fake.
well, I think nowadays is we all know that wrestling is, the way I see it, is
Staged.
entertainment. It's
Yeah,
entertainment.
staged.
That's
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
way that's the way you supposed to describe it.
yeah,
But
acting. Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
entertainment. But I feel like, that's why, like I said, I don't get into comparing, you know, the previous generation to the new generation, because you're not gonna get the same thing, because they're different people, and you're not gonna get, and to be honest, you really shouldn't want the same people. That's why,
No,
like,
no, it gets boring.
when I first came into pro wrestling, people were asking me about, a mortician gimmick, and I had a mortician character, but I came up with some different kind of characters. Like I had a dog catcher character. Like I had another character who was like this Florida swamp dude named Graham Gator. I did like a keyfave on the podcast with him one time, but I wanted to do something different. Like I don't, I like Mick Foley, like how he was Cactus Jack, dude, love, mankind. He was all on different. Like I kind of like that he played around with different characters, and like, so to me, I was like not so caught up into like doing like an Undertaker gimmick, because the first thing you got to worry about, people saying, "Oh, it was only one Undertaker, Paul Bearer." I ain't trying to be like nobody, I
Yeah.
ain't,
Like
don't
good
get me wrong.
embalmer.
Don't get me wrong. The Undertaker and Paul Bearer did a phenomenal job, and it will always be one Undertaker as far as wrestling, and as far as Paul Bearer. So they did a phenomenal job with that character. I think that personally, who knows, somebody else may come along with a mortician gimmick or something like that. But I don't think I'm as interested in doing that one anymore, just because I think they did a really good job. Now, who knows though, I mean, you don't have to do it the exact same way they did it, but if I were to do something like that, it ain't because they did it. It's because I actually work in the business, for much like Paul Bearer did. He worked in the business for real. But nah, it wouldn't be me trying to be like nobody.
Yeah. It's
I do
kind of
have
like
a license.
yeah, it's kind of it's kind of like the Batman, It's like everybody's like, "Who's your favorite Batman?" Like, it's like who played the better Batman? It's like I think they all played a good Batman, just in different angles and different light. Like I think if you combine them all, that's Batman, not just Christian Bell or
I'm gonna
it's
tell
you
you
gotta
what wrestler of the new era that I really liked, Bray Wyatt. I was sort of kind of a big fan of his because I liked how his characters were very different. I liked how he did some unique stuff, like with the Firefly Funhouse, and he had the Fiend, and then he was, he had Uncle Howdy and all these, different characters that he came up with, and then he was able to, like, put together a group, and he was Husky Harry, and like, I think that brother had a really really brilliant man, and like, I think that it was nice that he was allowed to express some creative freedoms, because I understand that in a lot of these bigger companies sometimes, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I shout out all the wrestlers in the industry, because I know sometimes not everybody who's given a gimmick is a gimmick that they wanted to do. Sometimes those are just gimmicks that they're given, and sometimes the crowd receives them well, sometimes they don't. But we have to accept the fact that these are just individuals who are just doing the job, and people get burned out. That's why, like I said, sometimes, for me, I treated it as a hobby, and I was very passionate about it being a hobby. I didn't have to worry about, oh, he's trying to be like this. No, because I was doing it as a hobby. You.
yeah, 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 for sure.
I don't mind
So
working in the background.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So anyone who's trying to, whether hobby or career or whatever, and they're trying to do something like there are challenges that you faced. How did you overcome some of those? Like you talked about going to school many times and getting, and filmmaking has always kind of been a passion of mine. I've never really been good at it or really given it a real shot, but and that's why social media and even getting in front of camera, like even just doing these has helped me because with social anxiety, it's been hard for me to get on in front of camera just because I'm like, I'll nitpick the crap out of me. Like I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I forgot to shave. Look at this. And like, you know, and I don't even think about it until I see myself on here. But um, how did you keep motivating yourself to continue your education and to get to where you are now? Like how did
Well, for
you?
every obstacle, I created a solution by the grace of God. And so what happened was when I went to mortuary school, when I finally got toward the end of my program, we had to take these exit exams. I called them the exit career exam. 'Cause that's what it almost did. But I took my exit career exam and I was I was trying to pass and it just wasn't. So I remember, being at home and I was praying and talking to God, like, you know what? If I don't pass this test, I'm gonna have to find something else to do because it does happen. And let's be real, this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot. But a lot of times, a lot of people go to school for things, and sometimes they get the degree or they don't get the degree, but they spent all their time going to school, and then now because of all this red tape, as we call it,
Mhm.
it creates a lot of obstacles. And I understand that yes, people should be trained properly to do a job and things of that nature, but at the same time, there are sometimes there to every pro there's still a con, to every solution there's still another problem, right? And and so to me, I was like, if I don't pass this exam, then I'm gonna have to figure something else out. So I was considering being a plumber because my family's in the plumbing business. So I flew out to Vegas and went with my uncle and worked with him. And, we was at some lady house out there and she was chewing them out. And while she was chewing them out, me and her was laughing and talking and having a conversation. And so she chewing them out and me and her having a conversation. So when we got ready to leave the house, she said, next time you come back to Vegas, come back and visit me. And I'm just saying to myself, I'm good with dealing with people. The plumbing thing is not my expertise. I mean, you can always learn what you don't know, but sometimes learning what you don't know, if you're not as passionate about it, sometimes you might run into a few roadblocks there, or I'm talking about mentally rather.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and maybe I'll go to film school. So as soon as I went to film school, this is funny, I passed the funeral director test. As soon as I went to film school, because I remember the owner of the funeral home telling me, "Why would you go back to school for something else and you ain't even finished this?" And I'm like, "Cause time don't wait on nobody." As you can see, we work in this field, and you see people, and you're burying people every day, and young, old, middle age. So to me, it's like you got to live your life. So one thing about me, I'm the type of person where if it seems like I got a roadblock here, you better believe by the grace of God, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm not gonna let one thing stop me from going forward. See, I don't. That's one thing I know because tomorrow ain't promised on this side to any of us. So you got to keep moving. You got to always keep moving forward. That's my motto. So after I finished film school, this is the funny part. Now I do believe that God gave me this dream. I had a dream that I passed the science portion of the funeral director test to be an embalmer. So I prayed about it. I got up and went out to the school, took the test. I passed the science portion. But none of this happened till after I went to film school.
Well, you have options though. That's what makes that cool is like, I wanted to be a mechanic once, but my dad, he was a mechanic and he was like, "No, you don't." And I'm like, "What do you mean I don't? Like I like cars, I like, motors, I like working on these things." And he's like, "It's not the job itself that's bad, it's where you're doing it." He's like, "It's always hot, it's always cold, you're always getting under something, you're dirty, there's oil, and he's like, it's always in the most inconvenient place too, wherever you're fixing these things. And then you touch something, you get burned because the engine's been hot. Like, in the winter it's cold. You cut yourself, you don't even notice. And and he mainly worked in the mine, working on the big equipment and stuff when it would break down. So he'd go into the coal mines and fix those things, and they paid him pretty well. And they back then, the insurance was amazing through a company like that. He had no deductibles, everything was covered. It was insane, but he was like, "No, you don't want to do that." And I really listened, and I was like, "He's probably right." And I'm glad now that I'm older. Like, yeah, I hate working on vehicles. I
Yeah,
do.
And I'm an advocate. Like, if by the grace of God I ever do have children, um, I would probably not force my children to be in the funeral business or to be filmmakers or be whatever. I would want them to be whatever they desire to be, because I think that everybody has different idea and everybody has a different gift. So like, I can't force somebody to embrace something just because that's what I chose. Like, I know people wanted me to give up on certain things, but I trusted God and kept going, and it might not have happened in the time frame that people wanted it to or the time frame that I wanted it to, but it always worked out when it's supposed to. And so that's what I tell anybody, like, you don't have to wait till you think that you're at the top of the mountain to be happy and to be grateful
Yeah.
and be thankful, because I borrowed this quote from my friend John from pro wrestling. He used to say, he would tell us, like, I'd be like, what you planning on doing? He like, look, Wade. It ain't about the destination, it's about the journey. He said, I'm here for the journey, not the destination. And so I borrowed that quote from him, and I use that quote a lot because so many people are so focused on getting to a destination to where they miss the journey. The journey is the most important thing, because the journey continues, but the destination is temporary. Even if you get to the peak or the top of the mountain or whatever, like, nobody stays in the same situation forever. Life is full of changes, and no matter what you have or don't have, things change. So to me, it's just about enjoying the journey. And so that's why, like I said, I don't beat myself up about anything. Like I said, I've been, cruising my way through my internship because I've been, doing my filmmaking and things. And, some people might ask, well, why are you dragging your feet? But, I've been through some things in the funeral service industry as well that kind of made me look at things a little bit differently and said, you have to protect your future. And sometimes, in order to protect your future, you have to be open to the fact that you might have to do other things as well. You might have to have multiple streams of income, especially if you want to do it the way that you want to do it. Because I know plenty of funeral directors who people got burned out and just walked away from the industry. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna let it happen to me. I know one older funeral director. He about 75 years old. He always say, I ain't finna let this kill me. And he been licensed over 40 years. So, you gotta, we have to understand that as people, you know, it's a blessing to do what you love, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you create the proper balance for yourself.
Yeah, I think that there are people who have gifts naturally. Like, we talk about having to work our way up to things, but there's some people that can pick up a guitar and just play it. There are people who can just pick up a wrench and know how to fix things. There are people who and everyone told me from a young age, like, you should do something in computers, you could do this. And I did computer repair and I did a bunch of stuff in my younger years. And then I ended up being a plumber. I ended up hurting my back, and then back full circle. Here I am back to computer stuff. But but I tried to fight it because I like to fix things and I like things to be hands on. And especially in my younger years, I wasn't a real people person. So it was really hard for me. So I'm just like, I just want to do the job, fix the stuff, and get paid and move on. And um, but it's funny how life just works its way out, and you end up wherever you're going to end up in the end. When I was getting my, we talk about the embalming and all this stuff. So there's this interesting story. When I was doing plumbing, you have to get backflow certified to replace these backflow prevention things. And a lot of them are in like Walmarts and different things. So you have to have that in order to replace that part. So they make you take these classes. And the guy that was teaching the class is telling us about how important it is. And he tells us this story about this lady calls up after he'd gone out and he had fixed her water heater. She calls up. She's like, we turned the tap on and my water is pink. And he's like, well, I just changed the water heater, like, we'll come out, we'll take a look. So he comes out and he turns the tap on, and sure enough, he's like, it's the pinkest water I've ever seen in my life. And he's like, so can't figure out what went wrong. So we go and we're looking around. So we go to a neighbor's house and we ask them if their water is a weird color. They're like, well, sure enough, their water's pink. And so they drive around trying to figure out what's going on. They're checking different meters or things, I guess. And then there's a mortuary. And he's like, there's no
Yeah,
way.
that
And he's like,
embalmer
there's no
floor.
way. There's no way. There's no way. Like, they both kind of look at each other like, no way. And then But they go in and they look around. They spend like an hour there. The guy's real nice, walking them, showing them everything, and then they're about to leave and they're talking, and the guy's over there and he's embalming, and I guess apparently the one piece got plugged, and instead of using the water pressure to siphon out the blood, it was actually siphoning it into the pipes because there
Oh
was no
man,
backflow preventer. And so that was what the pink water was. I guess this had been going on for some time.
man, blood and embalming
Yeah,
fluid. That's what
yeah, and I'm like, I'm never drinking water again. Like,
getting contaminated, getting contaminated and embalmed at the same time. Ain't that something?
but but it's interesting, yeah. And he's like, but this is why it's important that we have these systems in place so that we don't contaminate the water. And but I thought that was always interesting because I'm like, oh my gosh, like pink water, like and then you find out what it really is, and you're like, oh man, like it probably wouldn't make you sick, I'm assuming, because the chlorine and everything, but it's still not a
Well,
healthy
no,
thought.
I look, I don't think nobody want a bloody bath. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like,
no one wants to get some pink water coming out of the tap and drinking it, but yeah, interesting things that you learn throughout the years of different things that you enjoy, things that careers, things that are hobbies, and for me, it was always persistence. I know that there's certain things that I'm really good at now that I was probably the worst. I mean, I probably could have been in the World Guinness Book of Records of being the worst at something. And and it was like, and people would even tell me like, "Nate, this just isn't for you. Why are you still doing that? Why? Why?"
but you know what? But I still feel that you know what? It's okay though because it's your life, and
Yeah.
I feel like not everybody is trying to be the greatest. You know, not everybody set out to be the greatest. Like even with filmmaking, like I don't do it for awards or nothing like that. I do it because that's what I love to do. I love telling stories. I love, making things. If I never won an award for it, I don't feel bad. I like being creative. It's just that's all. Look, I like George Lucas' method when he created Star Wars.
Yeah.
He said that he was trying to make the type of movies that he liked. I understand that, we live in a world where you got to make a living for yourself. So, Hollywood is commercialization. The industry is, because it's an industry, it's commercialization. But, I put it like this. Yeah, I got to make a living for myself. But at the same time, I want to make the kind of stuff that I enjoy making. Like I'm not, necessarily trying to win an Oscar or, I don't, if I never get a walk on a Hall of Fame, whatever, don't star, whatever you call it. But I don't really care about that. I just like doing what I do. No knock to the people that do it, but I like being creative. Like I said, I like doing it my way.
Yeah,
It's fun.
I think that's I agree. It's kind of crazy, but you look at it and a lot of people will think that movies are getting better to a degree, but I feel that they're kind of they're going the other direction. Yeah, we have better graphics now. We have better special effects. We could do things that we never imagined we could do. But before we had that, we had to make up for it with talent. You'll look at some of the things like that they had to do and create, like to make Jurassic Park. I mean, nowadays that would be nothing. Like, we pop that
Yeah.
into the computer and we got
Well,
dinosaurs.
well, what a lot of people don't realize to me is too much progress to me is actually a step backwards. And I know that might not make sense to a lot of people, but I think that sometimes the people back in the past, they longed for some of this technology and the capabilities, but being in this present day, I think that we have to understand that a lot of what they dreamed of kind of creates another problem for us in a sense because when you think about it like and this goes into like economics like because like we already know that a lot of companies already have been doing mass layoffs. um the job market right now really sucks. Like when I was in San Jose, I was talking to another young man who lives in San Jose. He's from Michigan, and he was just telling me like, man, I'm unemployed and stuff. And I've been meeting a lot of younger people nowadays who just been struggling to find work, and it's like things are not like even when because I'm 34, so when I was even a little bit younger, it was easy for people to find work and stuff like that. But like now, it's the job markets are very tight, and like I said, that's to me, that's more of a problem than what. So to me, that goes into like, okay, we got all this technology that's supposed to make the world better. But now you put people in the spot now where like they got to figure things out. And I know people are saying, well, technology taking away jobs, but it created new jobs. But to me, it's taking away more than it's creating because think about it. The goal, a lot of corporations' method is that they're going to hire less as possible because they're trying to cut costs. Let's be real. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman myself, so they can't nobody fool me about that as well as you are. The thing is for them to cut costs. So they're trying to cut costs. The goal is not to keep people on for the long run. You know, I might have been in the I might have had a little trouble in school, but I ain't that crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're investing in the technology to save money and make more
Yeah.
money, and they don't care. I mean, maybe some of them do care, but the
Yeah,
majority
some of
they
them
care.
do. Some of them,
But their main goal is that they didn't create this out of the kindness of their hearts. This is a business,
mhm.
and so they do have to make those choices, and that gets it's an interesting world we live in, interesting times. You know, I'm 43, and I bought a home. It was a small home, but I bought a home delivering pizza. So I delivered pizza for Domino's. That was enough to buy a home, a small home, you know.
Nice.
But back then you could deliver pizzas and buy a home. I can guarantee you right now you can't work a regular fast food job unless maybe you're a general manager or something. But I'm telling you, a regular worker, you wouldn't be able to buy a home of any size, at least not where I live. Um, that's another concerning thing that in my opinion, that because before you didn't need necessarily a career to buy a home. That was in my opinion that's
Yeah.
what was the American dream. That was sold.
Yeah. And she
You
like
buy
me,
a
I'm the type
house,
yeah. And she
have
like
a
me, I'm the
yard.
type of person that I watch the job market. I kind of to a certain degree study it. And that's why, like I said, I'm not going off what I'm just hearing people say. I'm going off information that I'm researching. I'm going off the people that I actually have talked to who are experiencing this. And so, like I said, I'm not trying to, gloom or doom type stuff, but I'm just being honest that I think that we have gotten so far to where we think that we're making progress, but I think that I think that we are creating other problems. And then the next thing goes into, well, if you do have mass layoffs, now who gonna make sure everybody's paying and go get paid to pay for their groceries and food and stuff. And now this is where I'm kind of leery of the like. I feel like that gives the government more control. Like I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think that for us to be in a democracy, and I'm not afraid to say what I have to say because I'm being honest about it. We're in a democracy, and I think that, people have to be able to make choices and to be able to have their own financial freedom. But when you have to depend on the system, to me, that creates less freedom. Um, I'm just being honest. I'm not afraid to say that. I mean, hey, somebody got to say
Well,
it.
it's true, but at the same time, desperate times call for desperate measures. So that I can
Yeah.
understand why people are like, we need the government to step in. We need this to
Well,
happen.
no, I understand why they're saying that too, but what I'm saying is that, but at the same time, do
No,
you
we
really
don't.
want that?
No, we don't. But
Do you really want
but when you're starving or hungry, like people are willing to do whatever they got to do to try to. And I just got done explaining that at one point I was able to buy a home delivering pizza. That's not a
Yeah.
possibility anymore. That it's getting harder and harder and harder. With interest rates and the cost of homes here where I live. In Utah, the average house was like 150, 200,000. Okay. That's great for like a 3 bedroom to, really big yard, like a single home. Like that was good. That was only pre-COVID. Now that same house is about 500,000, 500,000. That same house, not upgraded, not,
Yeah.
we're talking old, like,
Yeah, and that's why like I said that I think that it's time for, politicians, um, companies, and it's time for people to start having an honest and transparent conversation because again, I don't care what people say. I'm looking at what they doing. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, I don't care what a person can tell me, yeah, yeah. I don't want to hear that. I'm looking at what's actually really going on, and that's why, like I said, it's okay for people to, ask questions. I'm not saying anybody motives are good or bad, but I'm a type of person where I don't mind asking questions, and I think that people should because we got to know what's going on. It's not so much about whether this person is, part of this party or not. Everything that's going on affects people, no matter what our political point of view or religion is or whatever, but it's important for people to know what's going on. That's all.
Yeah, no, in marketing, it's kind of crazy right now because people are using AI, and you should be, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind because this is where the
Mhm.
world's going. But we're using AI to create content and do all these things for the AI systems on Google to rank us, and eventually it's like, when do we go for we're almost going to go full circle. It's going to be like, now we're having AI write for AI for hopefully a searcher, but maybe the searcher is going to be AI because, we're starting to incorporate that to where it's like, Alexa and things. It's like, oh, hey, Alexa, why don't you go ahead and order me this or whatever? So now you're having AI search up something that was written by AI for AI buying something for a human. Like that's, it's
That's
just,
that's why like I said that, me personally, I believe that there should be boundaries and parameters, but I also think that people should continue to ask the right questions because, like I said, I don't care what a politician said. I'm looking at what actually is being done. And so me, I'm just the type of person where, I'm gonna be honest, on the political scale, I'm more independent. You know what I'm saying? I'm being real. I'm more independent because I kind of don't like some things I'm seeing on both ends, to be honest with you. But
well, there's
but I still love. Look, I still love everybody, whether they're on
yeah,
this
me
side or
too.
that side. I don't discriminate because I understand all of us have different experiences in life, and so it's kind of like being a filmmaker, right? Like when you're making a movie, right? If you got the camera and you're looking at one angle, somebody else might see something that I didn't see. You
Yeah,
know, I
absolutely.
might see so
Absolutely.
so so I always embrace everything from that standpoint. Like I said, I don't bash anybody for this or that, but like I said, me personally, I'm more independent because I'm more of a person that asks questions. I've been like that since I was a child. Like I said, I don't bash anybody for because like I said, people we see different things, but I just have a concern for humanity, to be honest with you. Like I'm
Yeah.
appreciative for some of the technologies, but I just don't think the Jetson area is as glamorous as they make it. You know what I'm saying?
Not unless we come up with some kind of solution to that problem, because yeah,
Yeah,
we're in trouble. That's what I think if we keep going down that.
yeah,
And politicians, I don't care what side you're on, none of them are honest, because if they were honest,
yeah,
things would be improving. We would be getting better no matter who was in office. We would be seeing things improve
yeah,
instead of decline. It just seems like that. So I definitely lean more of like maybe libertarian, because I believe less government is better, because the less regulation and the less thing we talk about, this red tape and things, and like
yeah,
you, we should have regulation, we should on certain things,
yeah.
but I've met people who can cut hair better than anyone who's ever gone to school, and they should be able to cut hair if that's what they want to do. Like, like if people are happy, it's going to work out. If people are angry with every haircut they do, they're not going to have a job long anyway. Like, it's but obviously heart surgeons, things like that, they need training, they need regulation, and but I think we take it too far. It's like, a kid wants to open a lemonade stand now. Oh, they need a business license. They need this. They need that to
Well,
be in
well,
compliance. It's like,
yeah, and
it's,
that's the whole thing is like the government is all about the money.
they want
But
in
if you,
everything.
but if they really all about the money, then why are they not considering the people?
Right, because
That's
you would make more if you let these gifted people do what they're gifted at. There are I believe we do have Einsteins and Edisons in this world that we never hear about because of this red tape and regulation.
Mhm.
But there are
Yeah,
people that they're just born with it. This is
yeah.
a gift, and they should be able to do that without having to jump through these hoops and go through this and go through that. They should just have to be able to prove knowledge, prove they can do it. If I can come in and I can go, hey, as an example, whatever it may be, we should be able to say, hey, we can do that. Like, let me show you I could do that. And a lot of them are probably better than the people who went through the training.
Yeah, I know plenty of people who electricians and
Yeah.
people I got a buddy of mine right now. He wants to go to school or whatever, but a lot of times on his home, he does his own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Cause I remember one time, when I had a problem at home, I came home one day and I had water like in the basement just up to it was like, man, I could have went down there and went swimming on that water
Yeah.
2 days though, but I always wanted a pool, but not like that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. You know, you got a house in the pool, but yeah.
but we went, and when I got ready to cause my grandmother, you know, she was kind of like, oh wow, that's a lot of water, you know. So I called one of my friends, and when he came over, we looked at it. And what I like about him, he's kind of like what me and you talking about. He's more solution driven. Like we the type of people, and especially him, he the type of person where before he call anybody, he gonna think, you know. And I credit that to his Uncle Sight. We call him Uncle Sight because Uncle Sight told us one thing. He said, if you ever win the lottery, he said, what you do, you go back to your hotel room, and what you do, you sit and you think. Don't go style spinning. He said, and I like that. So in all things, I'm a type of person where, like, we think, because before you do anything, you got to really think about it, understand what's going on. And that's the thing about it. Like a lot of times, like sometimes as people, we don't take the time to really process and think about things. But when you take the proper time and process, then you can, because like you said, even back then, when sometimes when you call certain people, if you might end up having more problems than you intended on when they get through with
Yeah,
it.
everybody's in a hurry to just get it done or get things done, and sometimes you go in the wrong direction.
Uh-huh.
Um, I went to an event with my buddy, and he opens up his phone. He's got it mapped in because we had to find parking, and in Salt Lake, so we find parking and we park, and he's like, "Oh, it's only a couple blocks away." And the next thing you know, we've gone pretty far, and I'm like, "I don't think we're going in the right way," and I'm like trying to pull up my map, and he's like, "No, no, no, just keep coming. We're almost there." And I'm like I'm trying to keep up with him and look on the maps, and we finally get to a intersection. I'm like, "Bro, I'm not going that way anymore. Like, I got to stop. I got to find out where we're at and what's going on because we should have been there." We're now a mile away from the event. And so I pull open my phone, and sure enough, yeah, we're a mile away, the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
he's just gung ho, we're almost there. Let's go faster. Like, we're gonna be late. And I'm like, no, we're going the wrong, like, we're going the wrong way.
You
Like,
gonna be late, all right.
so finally it pulls open, and I'm like, yeah, we're going the wrong way. It's just right here. And I don't know what was going on with maps or Google, but when it went to walking instead of driving, it took us the wrong way. So we turned around, and that's kind of, I've used that as a reference a few times of like, we were running in the wrong direction. Like,
Yeah.
but had we just slowed down instead, we were in such a rush not to be late, and we just kept pushing forward. If we'd done that, we would have probably been 2 miles. And then it was like, now at that point, we might as well Ubered back, or, but
No, you're right. Yeah, you gotta
you
think,
guys,
because it was a simple problem. Like we had all that water, and so what we did was you know, I went and put on a couple of different pair of pants, put them boots on, took some plastic bags and wrapped it around our legs, and me and him stepped in that water when we went down there. The whole time, the thing was the GFIs that was the electrician put in, it was no power coming through. So the sump pump,
didn't
the
turn.
light was on, but it was no power there. So the
Yeah.
whole time, we would have probably called somebody, come out and get a plumber over there. And they gonna try. Then they gonna say your sump pump ain't no good or whatever. But the whole time it was no electricity right there. So
All
we
right.
we was
Even
able to go down there and figure out and got the water to go down. So that's why I always say sometimes you call somebody if you have to, but sometimes you got to really think about things and not just rush to make a decision. You gotta give yourself time to think. And I tell even families that when they going through a loss of a loved one transition, sometimes
you
people
got
will be like, well, you got to make it. No, no. Go around and price shop if you want to. See what's better for you. Do research on a funeral home or whatever, or do whatever you got to do. But, go around and price shop and see what's better for you. Like, I don't always tell people to go, like, even when people I know pass away, like, I don't just rush in and just, if you want to use the place where I'm affiliated with, you can. If not,
no, don't hard to do that.
I'm gonna support you either way.
You're already going through enough. You don't need to be worrying about
Mhm.
that. Yeah, it's but no, yeah, we do gotta slow down, and I think the other thing with this, now in this era, I grew like I said, I didn't grow up with the most money, so we always had to fix our own things. We always had to learn new things, and it was a lot harder than it is today. I'm telling you right now, like,
Yeah.
hey, you got YouTube, you can pull up instructions, back then, that wasn't the case. We had to go down to the library. Hopefully, there was a book on how to fix this, and we could scan it and print it off. That was if you were lucky, but most of the time, it was just I hope I could figure this out by looking at the broken one and then looking at the new one I bought and going, okay, this is how it goes. This is how it's supposed to work. And then you'd fix it because you couldn't, I couldn't afford to hire a plumber, an electrician, a roofer, somebody to mow the lawn and all that. You have to learn how to do all that. And
Yeah, and
sometimes,
sometimes, and that's what I say. Sometimes some things are simple, and I'm not afraid to share this either. I remember at one point I got diagnosed with something called spasmodic dysphonia, and I'm by no means no doctor, so I'm not giving nobody no medical advice, so don't try
yeah,
to sue me. I'm just speaking in terms of my own situation. That I was dealing with spasmodic dysphonia. It was like a rare vocal disorder where, like, when I get stressed out, my voice it strains really bad. Like I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan.
yeah, yeah.
You know how Palpatine had that Darth Sidious voice? It's
Hmm.
like I had 2 different voices going on, right?
Yeah,
But, when I left my job, by the grace of God, when I left my job, my voice got better and it never strained again. But when I went to the doctor, they were trying to get me to get, like, these Botox injections, and I wasn't doing that, and that thankfully, I got rid of the stress and my voice
yeah,
is good. So, a lot of stuff like I said, I can't go off always what other people say, but I can go off my own experiences. Like I said, I'm not telling nobody to do what
right,
Wade did. I'm not, I can't give you no
right,
legal
right, right.
advice, but I'm just telling you what happened to me. And so that's why, like I said, it's okay to question things sometimes, It's okay.
Yeah. I've had social anxiety my entire life, and it used to be so bad that I would literally make myself physically ill. One of the biggest pitches I ever did in my life, I'm sitting there going into this nicest office of this agency I've ever done work with, and I walk in, and I mean, it's way beyond anything I could ever describe. But you go in, and you just know that this money, like this is way bigger than anything or anyone I've ever dealt with. And at that point, it just kicked in. There's the anxiety. It was just through the roof. So I'm about to walk through the doors, and they have these doors that are right here, and there's this little hallway, and there's a garbage can, and I just start throwing up in this garbage can. Most embarrassing thing ever. The doors come open. I mean, they all are there. They all see. I mean, oh man, how do I wanted to just run away. I wanted to just be done, take off, and they'd be like, that was the interview. That was the guy. Like, like, there he goes. Like, I don't know what he was doing, but no, I ended up walking in and, I explained what was going on because that's who I am. I'm not just going to, I'm not going to let them assume I'm up drinking or something, I know I have social anxiety. It just hit in and that was it. And got it out of the way, and after I got that out of the way, then I was okay. But yeah, no, you can make yourself ill. Just like I've had to have MRIs and things, and that's hard for me. I can't get in
Yeah,
that machine because I get that way, and then I feel like I'm gonna throw up, and I'm in this machine, and it's like I'm like I can only imagine how bad that would be, and then that makes it worse because I'm thinking that, and it's like But once I expose myself to it and force myself to show up, to go in, to meet new people, jump on
yeah,
on podcasts and do these things and meet new people. It gets better and better every time. Like my anxiety gets less and less, and I can feel that I can start to be myself more. Um,
absolutely.
Instead of sitting back and being quiet and everyone thinks you hate them. And I'm like,
But but it takes time sometimes to get warm up because I used to be shy when I was younger, but once I got grown, I came out of that shell. Like I never meet a stranger. To be honest with you.
yeah, 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 yeah. 43 years and it gets better and better every year to where it's like, I'm not as like that. And it depends on where I'm at too.
Yeah,
And what you're talking about. If you have interest, then it's not as bad. If I'm somewhere and somebody's talking about something I don't have any clue about or anything, like it's really hard to have a conversation. And I become that quiet, awkward. They're like, this guy obviously doesn't like me or whatever it may be, but it's like I just don't know what to think. I don't know,
yeah.
never had
Sometimes,
this encounter with somebody.
sometimes it takes you a while to, get to warm up to people. Because I know, like with me, sometimes, like if I'm on social media and like I'm one of them people where like I don't really pay attention to like crazy stuff. Like a lot of times I look for more positive,
Yeah, yeah.
uplifting things because you get look, I work in a funeral home, right? You don't want to hear tragedy all day,
No,
24/7. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like So I look more for uplifting stuff that brings people joy. So if I see something that I like, sometimes I'll just reach out to people and say, you know, not asking for anything, not trying to sell them anything. I ain't trying to sell nobody nothing. So I'm just saying it now. But, you know, genuinely just reaching out just to say, hey, I think I like what you're doing. You're doing a good job and keep up the good work. And, you know, sometimes some people think that's so strange. I'm like, who are you? Well, everybody is somebody, but, you know, but I think sometimes some people are just so used to people being out to get them, you know, they just, I don't know, but I understand, you
We're
know.
always on defense because somebody's always got something negative to say. And that's just unfortunate because I don't think a lot of them even realize they're doing it. I think that it just becomes a habit or whatever you want to call it. That's just who they are at this point. And they don't even realize they're beating people down and doing those things. And then they, I don't know, maybe hopefully one day they'll wake up and realize it. But, and social
Yeah, that's
media,
why.
it it's fueled on negativity because that's
Yeah,
what people want. Just like the news, no one wants to tune in and be like, "Oh, some ducks had babies at the pond today," and
kind of
go down
remind
and
me of
take a
that.
look at them.
It kind of remind me of that Disney movie Tomorrow World, right? Like when they went to the future, they found out that the guy in the future, he wanted to continue to feed the world all that negative
Yeah,
stuff, and you know, and so to me, I think that people have to realize that this is our life that God has given us, so we have to be mindful of what we contain and store into our minds, and because it's a lot of things that can affect you because people don't realize when they say the mind is a terrible thing to waste, that is a true statement because sometimes our mind could be so filled with all this stuff that really does nothing for you but destroy you. So like I just try to focus more on things that are, you know, uplifting and joyous. And, you know, I'm aware of some of the negative things because you have to be aware. But to me, being aware is a little bit different than dwelling on it and
focusing.
participating in it. You know, like I don't participate in tearing people down, you know.
Yeah,
It's just not something that I do because it's like I don't know, like it's weird to me how sometimes like every time somebody sees something on social media about somebody, everybody just I ain't gonna say everybody, but some people just comments and I get it because it's a platform, it's money to be made, it's all this, but sometimes you gotta think about it. If me making money and tearing somebody down is important to me, then I need to reevaluate myself as a person. You know, I'm not trying to make no money off nobody um being torn down or making fun of nobody or like I think it's silly to me. You know, I think that and then too, like I say, everything that we hear about people may or may not be true, you know?
yeah.
But I mean at the end of the day, hey, I mind my business, man.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy because, like I said, the platforms are designed to reward that kind of behavior, and people do get interested in it. So you almost have to spin it. It almost has to be like you got to open with the negative, but it's really a positive post, So
Yeah.
it's like, and those are great because it grabs everybody's attention.
Yeah, I look, I get it because, but that's kind of bad that like we have been conditioned to just be so quick to think evil and bad about each other. Like I think that as people in society, we got to wake up and you know just start kind of being a little bit different. Like I say, don't be naive, don't be gullible, and don't let your guards down. But at the same time, still be kind, be courteous, you know, be courageous and be fair. You know, life ain't fair, but it's what we make it. And like I tell people, I like when Roman Reigns said, I'm not a good guy. I'm not a bad guy. But what I say is, whatever you want to be, just be fair, you know. Just try to be fair at least. And like I said, I ain't I try not to jump to conclusions about people, especially when I really don't know them. Like I mean, like when I hear things about people, I just I almost just kind of you know if I can't help you, I ain't gonna hurt you. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's crazy on how people we don't. I don't know. It's just people have become so negative, like you said, and things. And it reminded there was just a couple weeks ago some kids. It said minors. It doesn't say how old they are or anything, but they got caught trying to steal food from a grocery store or something. In the process of security trying to stop them, they stabbed the security guard. He's okay,
Wow.
minor injuries, but me, I go to a place where I'm like, it's such a hard that's a hard one because it's like I don't believe in violence like that. And obviously security guard shouldn't have been stabbed, but what were these kids going through? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, at what point do you feel that that it's necessary to do that to someone
But that's why I draw the line. Like
for
if they gonna
food?
do what they gotta do, I mean I understand it, but stabbing somebody is just
No,
totally wrong.
they
That's
had
why
to
I always,
be
but see, that's why I always say, but what another thing that people gotta realize is that, when people wake up in their mind and think, and I can't speak to this circumstance because I don't know all the ins and
right,
outs,
I
but
don't
yeah,
have all the details either.
stabbing, but no, but that still doesn't excuse somebody getting stabbed is never
Absolutely
okay,
not. It
you
doesn't
know?
excuse it.
And so to me, that's why like I always say that people have to also be mindful though that everybody out here ain't slipping. There are some people you run up on. I hate to say it, but they looking for a reason. And
Yeah,
so, like
yeah,
I said,
yeah.
so I'm just saying that I think that people should just you're better off being kind to people. And if you do need help, there's nothing wrong with asking for it. But
Yeah.
don't put yourself in a situation where you can get your life taken or somebody else can get hurt. 'Cause like I said, not everybody. Cause I know it was a situation before where a young man was trying to rob somebody, and the guy that he tried to rob ended up killing him. And
And that
so,
it can
yeah,
happen.
you gotta be careful out here. So,
Can happen
I
to
just say
people's
leave
careers.
people alone. People work hard for what they got, and you never know. Everybody, a lot of people are struggling right now. So, we better off working together.
Yeah, it just baffles me that somebody would go what would it take for you to be in that mindset, in that place, you know what I mean? Like, to think that that's what you had to do to get food, you know what I mean? And I don't know the full story. Maybe they were
Yeah.
stealing candy, maybe they were stealing I don't know. All I can imagine is how could you put a price on somebody else's life or even your own over some food or candy or whatever it was they were
Now you
taking?
now you got me thinking about that red tape because I because I also worked in security too. I did security for whenever the wrestlers who are not wrestling works a show, we do security. But I also was trained to do security, and here in Illinois, you have to have what we call a perk card. So I was trained to do that as well. Just doing security and stuff nowadays is dangerous.
No, oh
It's
yeah, oh yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah, no,
Very
we're talking
dangerous. Yeah, like
Yeah,
like I said,
exactly.
I ain't finna risk my life for no material, and then the crazy thing about it is that they train you that if you are in a situation where something happened, you can't really respond to it. So what are you supposed to do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, do we stop them? Do we not stop them? Do we try to, like and do like, it's an interesting dynamic now, like I said, where things have changed a lot over the years, and some good, some bad. I think social media has a lot of awesome things and opportunities. I mean, here we are talking together, we've never met before, and having these conversations about life, and it's cool because we have a lot of the same beliefs and, not even
Yeah,
just
but I
same beliefs.
also but now that we talk about that, but I also think for businesses and from a political standpoint that we gotta stop being so reactive and be proactive. Like you go in places and they ain't got no metal detectors. Like to me, I think everyone needs some type of security. I think, um, me personally that even as a business owner, like I would value the safety of the people. Like to me, I don't just believe in just you get people are paying their money to come into your store or to your train station or bus station. I mean, come on now, because even like I've always said, like on the public transportation stuff, like I believe they need metal detectors. Like why so much stuff is already happening.
Yeah.
What would it take for them to get like to me it's just that's why like I said, I understand why people think about politics and stuff the way they do sometimes because the things that really matter ain't really the things that really being dealt with. Some of the stuff they dealing with is just stuff that it's I you know
It's almost like sometimes the government creates a solution that becomes the problem, and one of those examples I've for me in my lifetime was I witnessed us go from paper bags to plastic, and that was sold as a solution. That was like, we're not cutting down trees, we're saving the environment. Plastic is this miracle thing that's going to save us all, and now fast forward, and it's like plastic doomed us. Plastic is like the worst thing we ever invented. It's polluting everything. We can't get rid of it. It's not a very easily thing to recycle without causing pollution. There's, and
same thing with these data centers, right? Like,
right, right. We're
it's
we're
a
cre-
it's it's like to me that's why, like I said, me personally, I'm one of them people that I believe instead of looking for other people to be the solution, as people, we have to start getting more involved. And I boldly say that because, if you're looking for somebody to like come up with these solutions, I hate to say that, but like the song said, I feel like they don't really care about us. I ain't saying all of them because I can't say that there might be some people that really do want to make a difference, but I feel like sometimes the ones that really want to make the difference, those are probably the ones that's probably not gonna go too far. I think I don't know, like I just it's a lot of things about this world we just won't ever understand.
Yeah, yeah. It goes back to the we're in a rush so quickly to do something that we don't stop and think about it. And I think the data centers may be one of those things. Everybody's out rushing to get these things pushed through and done. And obviously they probably have more data than us and they probably know something that we don't and things, but regardless, we need to slow down and actually have a plan and a way to do it right without jeopardizing the biggest resource on this planet, which is water. And we have to have that to live. It's already contaminated with forever chemicals. There's not a plant, a
Yeah, and
human.
then we talking about going to the moon and different planet. We ain't gonna do nothing. Go up there and cause the same problem.
Oh, we will. Yeah, that's the point. And it'll just be another plastic bag scenario to where we caused a problem, not a solution, because now it's like, oh, paper bags actually were probably better.
Yeah.
Because we don't pollute with the paper bag. The paper bag becomes part of the earth and we're good, but plastic does not. So I always think of that if it's like, oh, if it sounds too good to be true, it
Yeah,
probably
that's what,
is.
that's why I say when I'm one of the people. That's why when there are politicians come to me and say, "Will you vote for me?" First thing I'm gonna ask you, what you gonna do for the people,
Yeah, no, that's what it
and
should be.
and then and then what you gonna do for the people. I want to start getting it right.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. We need
Getting
to
it right.
we really need somebody who comes in that isn't that is a regular person that is for the people who's going to come in and actually do that. And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that for
Yeah.
probably not in my lifetime. All we ever see is the same rinse and repeat cycles and they're all buddies behind scenes. I don't care what anyone says. They're all friends.
Yeah. Oh
They may
yeah. Yeah.
pretend like they're not. It's like wrestling, you know? Oh, blah,
You
blah,
know what?
blah, blah,
But
and
wait a minute. It's funny. It's funny. It's funny you say that because some people get mad when people say that, but I always say that politics is just as real as wrestling. That
yeah.
might fly over some people's head,
It
but
really is. As
that is
soon as
that
the cameras stop rolling, like it completely different things going on.
and look, I've met different politicians from working in the funeral business. I meet all kind of people from walks of life. But like I said, I'm one of them people that it don't matter what your name is, what the title is. To me, I'm gonna ask questions, and like I said, while I can't speak for the whole wide world, I'm just saying that it's time that we start holding these people accountable when they standing up there making these promises. Get it in writing, and then instead of making all these different departments, make a department of truth where if the person lied, if they lying, they get caught lying, saying they're gonna do all this stuff, then they go before the department of truth. You say you're gonna do this, you didn't do it. Okay, you fired.
Hey,
You fired.
it should be illegal. At minimum, it should be illegal for them to make promises and things that they don't try to at least follow through with. And I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe it's not even the politicians. Maybe it's the system. Maybe it's the way it's
Well,
designed.
no, I believe it's more so the system than it is them because as we know,
Right.
they can only do
They're
so
dealing
much.
with red tape like we discussed too, probably.
And
And then you
and
get
we
in
have
and
to
you're like,
understand that it's a bigger thing going on behind the scene because like I
yeah,
always say that the person in charge to me is not really the person in charge because there are still systems and power that have been in place that
right.
just
Yeah,
so that's a story for another day. But
yeah, yeah. They may have all the best intentions, but you get in, like I said about the red tape and all that, and maybe you can't do it. Maybe it's too much. Maybe whatever it may be. Just like I was talking about me wanting to do a nonprofit. You
yeah,
start trying, and it's like you do one step, and then you do the next, and you do the next, and it's like, oh, I need all this money, and it's like, okay, you come up with the money, and then it's like, well, I need a board. Like, what do you mean? I have to get 4 people who are going to get on board with my nonprofit, and
yeah,
they're just going to trust to give me their social securities and do all these things, and then we're going to vote on things. It takes a lot more than most people probably realize, and that's why I think a lot of nonprofits lose their way too, because it ends up being, yeah, you can't sell it, but you still make money with a nonprofit, like a lot of people do.
yeah,
I've met some that were good, and I've met some that were terrible, but it's an
yeah.
interesting dynamic.
Yeah, being a business owner just, very interesting because like I said, you see things in a totally different light, and it's not for the faint. It's not it's not
Yeah.
for the faint because whether you got money coming in or not, you still got to keep it going, and that's like I said, that's easier said than done. So like I said, I take my hat off to all of the people out there who are just trying to do something. And I had the privilege because I also got into journalism a little bit, and I actually wrote an article kind of dealing with how, like, we have so much technology now and the work world is changing. And I feel like nowadays they're kind of pushing everybody to somewhat be entrepreneurs because that's
Well, the
kind of
jobs
the
are
new
going away.
business.
The jobs are going away. Like, what are we gonna do when AI's out doing all the construction? The AI's doing all the warehouses, all the fast food, all of the I mean, this is what AI will excel at, because
Yeah.
doing repetitive tasks, that's what AI does well at. It
I can't I can't think about what the name of this cartoon was, but once I saw this cartoon, right, where it was like a politician. He came into town and he just started telling the people what he was gonna do. And it was one guy, it was one guy that just was questioning, he was getting on that politician nerves. But that's why, like I said, it's important for people to ask questions and don't be afraid. Cause like I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of the people that I boldly say this, but I write politicians quite a bit. I'm pretty sure they don't read this stuff, but like I said, I do write. I'm
it's
not a person that sit back and don't say nothing. Like I said, I'm not
yeah.
trying to bash anybody, make nobody look bad, but it's time for the next generation to like, don't let these people push you over. It's time to start holding people accountable and asking questions, And like I said, that's not taking a jab or shot at anybody, but the system kind of need a lot of more work.
We
It
we
need a
need
lot of more work,
we
man.
need to unite again as people. And I mean that in the best way because we're so divided by politics that there's this
Yeah.
side, that side, and you may agree on everything, you just don't hear the other person's side. All you hear is, "Well, they voted this way," and it's like, "Oh, you can't be friends with them," and then it's like,
But the
"No,
crazy part about it is the people on one side and the other side, they cool.
no, yeah, that's
It's
what I'm
like
saying." Like,
it's
like,
like
and when did kids start caring about politics? That's what I want to know because it's like, when I was a kid, I gave nothing. No, 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 we didn't care. Like that was you know, like the last thing you worried about is who was president, who was this, who was that. We gave no crap about that at all until we got older. Nowadays, you got 7-year-olds running around being like, "You voted for who?" Like, and
And it and that's why, like I said, I've had the privilege of meeting different people from the line of work that I do, and I'm telling you, like, I can't go off everything that I hear, but I'm just saying I'm looking at what I'm seeing, and to me, a lot of things ain't what we think it is. Like I said, it's man,
I
this
I
this
think it's gonna take all
this
of
this
us.
this stuff is just as real as MTV,
It
man.
really is. It really is. I'm telling you, if you would have told me what it was going to be like now, like 20 years ago, I would have bet anything against that. I would have laughed. I would have never believed it. But what I always believed was in politics was we come together to make a better America or better for all of us. And if we can come up with solutions, I don't care if you have a D, an R, an I, or whatever next to your name. That's what it was about. It was about improving us as a society. And now it's like, well, we don't care if that improves the society because the other side's the one that's pushing for that. Like, and it's like,
It
wait,
is
what?
so.
What?
And to me, that's so. That's why I say that the first thing it has to be truth and accountability
Yeah.
because there's too much deception going on. And
Eh,
and like I said, that's not trying to take a jab at anybody because this just didn't start. Now this is a problem that's been going on for years,
What's been going on from the
years.
beginning?
And
It's
so
just amplified now with online and social media and things. We've allowed it to amplify to the point to where people aren't willing to even be friends with somebody if they believe a different way. And it's like, in my opinion, if it's better for society, then I'm for it. Like, like
yeah.
I don't care what party you're affiliated with. If it's better for society, we should all come together and vote for that because it's better for society. And, but common sense,
Well, I say how you going? But that's just like you. That's just like me and you going to go see a movie, and then after the movie. we say, okay, let's just say for instance, we go watch a movie and you got a guy named John and you got a guy named Mike, and then and then we say, well, then you say, well, I think Mike was a better character. And I say, well, no, I think John was better. Now we in there arguing.
Mm,
Now these people that made this movie together. Now they were enemies in the movie, but then once the movie over, with, they going off playing golf together at the
yeah,
party together behind the
best
scenes and
friends.
got secrets and all that stuff going on together. And man, me and you mad at each other.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening, and I think and I think it's silly because that's how they want it, because how do you control a population or people? You make sure they're not all on the same page, and we all are on the same page because we're all going through it. We're all in the same race. We're all in the same life. We're all living the same thing, and we all want better. But we can't get better if we're not willing to talk and we're not willing to negotiate and come up with real solutions without saying, well, that depends on who's for this. Because if they're for
Yeah,
this, I'm not for this. Like, I don't want this if that's what they want. And it's like, what do you mean they? We're all equals here. We're all living in America, or
but you
we're
know,
all living in this society. We should be wanting it to be better, right?
But
Like,
I'm a firm believer that nobody get away with nothing. Like, whenever people have wrong intentions for people, I always say that everybody gonna go somewhere when they leave here. I just hope we all get right with God, cause that it ain't gonna matter whether we was a politician, musician, whatever, mortician, whatever, because people reap what they sow. So that's why I always say, like, I just pray for those, who do have, the authority to make certain decisions. But I still say that as people, we got to stop looking to these people and start holding them accountable, man. Because
100%.
we're
All
gonna be in the
parties.
same mess as long as it's like that. We're gonna be in the same mess.
That's, oh,
I'm
100.
gonna be honest. I wouldn't want to be in a decision to be in a position to make decisions for other people. Because, like I said, I know that me personally. I don't know everything, and like I
Right.
said, I would feel so bad to make decisions that affect people's life, their livelihood. That ain't nothing to play with.
Oh, same,
That ain't no
100%.
game. I don't know what. Like I said, I'm just saying that me personally, somebody has to do it, but it's not a job that I think people should take lightly, because everybody gonna be held accountable for what they do, whether they realize it or not. So, best thing we can do is be honest and treat people right, because
Well,
that's lying to people ain't treating them right. I
there
don't
should
care what side of
definitely
the
there
political
should
scale.
definitely be more accountability, and I hate that when you mention that somebody will be like, "Well, so and so did that too, and they didn't nothing happened to them." It's like, well, just so you know, I hope so and so also is held accountable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you may think that I'm choosing parties or sides, but no, if you're absolutely right. That person should have been held accountable too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
eh,
it don't make it. If I went out and did something wrong, it don't make it right. Like
right.
we have to start holding the people accountable, and like not like, oh, this guy did, I like this guy. So no, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Like,
The
we
rules
shouldn't
for
be.
thee and not me society
Yeah,
mentality
like
needs to
us.
go away.
And like I said, I'm not telling people how they should or shouldn't think, but this is just me. Like, you ain't gonna get me to jump on no bandwagon, because wrong is wrong no matter who do it.
No, and that's
Like if
why
it was me,
and that's
at
why
Wayne
you
Simmons,
lean
you gotta get yourself together.
that's why you lean independent, because you see the flaws in both sides and you're going, "Hey, it makes sense that we need both. There's a reason why we have different parties and have all these different things, because we need these balances of things, because if one side had it, it would be pure capitalism and we wouldn't have any kind of systems or programs to help people. And if the other side ruled it, we wouldn't have any capitalism and any entrepreneurs and any, it's a balancing act, and both parties want complete control. And it's like, who wins when that happens? Not the American people. Like, we do
Yeah,
not win in those scenarios. We do not. Um,
yeah.
and so
That's
it,
why I said, I personally think that if I was ever in charge of anything, I would have a committee of truth, and everything you said you're gonna do that you ain't did, you're gonna be held accountable for it. Because you can't. Because first of all, in business, people can sue you for lying. Now we
for
know in our
sure.
country you can't sue. We already know, but it's a reason they did that.
Right. No,
I
that's
better
the
leave that
problem.
alone. There's a reason they did that.
That's the problem. That is the problem. It's literally designed to reward those who are not honest. It's literally designed to, and then we wonder why we always get, oh, we got to vote for the lesser of evil. Like, it's like we wonder how we got here. Well, that's how we got here.
Well, like I said again, that's why studying history, studying politics, even studying religion to a certain degree, studying all day. Like I done looked into a lot of stuff because you gotta know what's going on in the world. Like you know, we can't just ignore it. And I know sometimes people don't like to talk about these things because it's can get scary, can get a little spooky sometimes. But the truth is, sometimes somebody got to be honest and bold enough to tell the truth because it is what it is, but you know, I think that they should know that not everybody's going on. Everybody don't believe the baloney now. You know, it's some people out here that are very alert to what's going on. You know,
Yeah.
and I commend them people. Like I said, is we shouldn't hate anybody because they this or that or whatever. Like because we're all individuals, and like I say, we all see things a little bit differently, but at the same time, I still say that wrong is wrong no matter who do it. You know, like I said, it don't matter if it's me. Like I'm not gonna, you know, like I said, I think that people have to because to me, if I really love somebody and if I love myself and I'm doing something wrong to somebody, whatever, I think that I'm doing myself and others a disservice if I don't acknowledge that, you know. But like I said, everybody pay for what they do. And we may not see it, but it don't mean that it don't happen, you know. So and I can tell you that in my own life because I remember that it was things that I've done. And then when I get it back, I say, oh, I remember I did that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've been
Hey,
there, and it's just like
yeah.
I talked about my horrible divorce and things that I got put through. But at the end of the day, people will be like, you could literally do all these horrible things and get revenge or get your whatever you want to call it, payback, whatever you want to call it. And they're like, why don't you do that? Why don't you at least, enforce child support? It's like, I don't got time for that. I don't, like I'm okay. I'm financially well enough. I can take care of my kids. I don't need that. If she doesn't want to be part of their lives, that's on her, not me. And I'm not going to do that just to be vindictive or do those things because I'm a huge believer in karma. Like she's already ruined her own self. Like there's nothing I could do to make her life worse than what she's already done
Yeah.
for herself. Like you said, what you reap, you sow, it comes back. It always does.
Yeah, I always tell people deeds are kind of like a tax return, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can get it on the front end or the back end.
Yep.
So on the front end, it pays to do the right thing because on the back end, that's when and like I said, consequences is not in man's hands. I believe that's in God's hands. Because, you know, personally, like I said, nobody. I don't care how rich somebody is, how poor somebody might be. Nobody get away with anything. It might seem like it, but
No, on this earth,
everybody.
on this earth, they might have gotten away with it, but they're going to
Yeah.
be held accountable in another
Oh
light.
yeah.
And most of the time, people, when they get closer to that point in life, a lot of them wake up. You look at people on death row. A lot of them are like, "Oh my," they find Jesus or whatever, and
They better find the Lord G. Better find
you
him. You
better
better
you
find
better
the
hope
Lord
and
Jesus.
pray that He
You better
shows you some
find him
mercy.
now. We all need the Lord Jesus. We need that mercy and that
Yeah, we
grace, you
all
know.
we
But
all need a little bit of mercy for sure.
we
I mean,
need it.
none of us are
I need a
perfect.
lot of it, but I'm just saying that sometimes people have to be honest enough to admit that though. And like I'm saying, it's just to me, I just like I said, politics is something that is very important because these are individuals that make decisions that affect
All of us.
all people. But
Yep.
like I said, people have to start holding, no matter what party you're part of, you should hold people accountable and like, stop all this. Like I said, like it's cool. You got a board of peace and all this stuff, but what a board of truth? Because you can't have peace without truth. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
all of it.
You got
Integrity.
all of it go together.
We
You
need to
got to have
bring
it all.
integrity back. We need people to have integrity and to believe in that and to
You
do
know
what they
what?
need to do.
Pinocchio would make a good president.
Well, we would know right away. We would be oh, we can't vote for that guy. Like, that's out the window. I think we should have to hook them up to a lie detectors and just kind of like, we turn it into a talk show. And when you said
But
that,
like I
that
said,
was a lie.
I'm not taking the jab at any one person.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
me
that it's
either.
the
Me
system.
either. Just the
It's
system
the
itself.
system. It's the system itself that been in place for a this stuff didn't just start. Like the next guy blame the next guy.
No, it
Like
always will be if we don't start changing. And I think the change starts with us. I think the change starts with
yeah,
the people. We come together because it doesn't matter. Like I said, it don't matter what party made that law. It affects us all. It doesn't
yeah,
matter what party did this. It affects us all. And if we're all not all, we're divided. then it's always going to be back and forth. We're literally electing people to pass laws and do things, and then we elect the next guy to disassemble those things. And
Maybe they should make it. Maybe they should make it that after a person do the first term to where if they didn't fall through on some things, then things got to be real. But like something different gonna have to
reevaluated.
happen.
We open up a new vote or
Yeah,
whatever. Like
something gonna have to happen.
well,
And
we
like
have
I
to.
said, this is not a jab at one individual.
No,
This is
I
stuff been
agree.
going on for years.
No,
So
yeah, yeah.
it ain't. I don't want nobody thinking we trying to single nobody out because
No.
it's something.
I try to find the good in everybody. Like
Yeah,
I look at all of our former presidents and I can find something that they did that improved my life. I really can. Um, but then I can look at the negative too and be like the same thing. They've all hurt me
yeah.
too.
Yeah,
And
that's why, like I said, I ain't trying to talk to bash anybody because I understand that, that is a job that somebody has to do. But all I'm just saying that whoever does it, whether it's me or anybody else, you got to hold people accountable. And I'm putting myself in there because I'm not above anything, anybody too. Like I'm human too, and I have to treat people right, just like everybody else should. So that's why, like I said, it don't matter what your political status is or whatever. Like if you're doing the job, you got to look out for everybody.
and that
That's
should
the
be a
whole point.
requirement.
Like, yeah, and it
That should be the requirement right there. What you
shouldn't
just
be
said,
trying to
looking out
divide
for
people up.
everybody. Looking out for
Yeah,
everyone. That should be the number one requirement. And I think nowadays that's not what's happening. It's like you have one party looking out for their party, you got the other party looking out for their party, and meanwhile we're using tax dollars to push in things, and then the next person's reversing things, and uh, now they're making our lives harder because we have to pay more taxes to basically go back and forth. It's stupid.
and then another thing is that I think when these people present policies to us, don't just tell us the good about it. Tell us what we gonna get on the back end from this. You know,
And
like
we
when
should
you
live
get
by it.
like when you buy things, it come with a clue. Okay, well, like they tell you when they sell medication, they say well it heals this and
Here's
does
the
this or
side
whatever.
effects. Yeah.
Then the side effects are blind eyes, boogers coming out your
Uh,
nose. Oh,
yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah.
that tell people what's the pro. Because to me, I'm more of a realistic person. I don't. If you gonna tell me like that's why I say I'm the worst person to try to sell something to. When I go in the store and somebody try to sell me something better, I tell that first of all, don't give me that. Just be real with me. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
give me I'm being honest. Like I'm okay with the pros and cons because then I can make a sound decision. But if you just telling me the pros and not no, like
I'm
I'm
thinking the
just an
worst.
advocate. Yeah, for people should know what they're getting into. Like it's important to just be honest with people. Like I don't know. Like I say, we want all these different policies in place, but it all start with honesty. Because if something ain't built on honesty,
Yep,
it's useless.
it is because you don't know what you're getting, and that's the
Yeah,
problem. That's what we've been dealing with. I really appreciate your time. I'll ramble forever, and I'll I need to. Didn't realize that we'd been talking so long. Seems like I've known you my whole life. Kind of an interesting thing. So I appreciate you coming on and taking your time out of your day to do this. I hope somebody finds it of value. That's my main reason for doing this, as well as overcoming my social anxiety, like I said. Uh, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop. Like you said, hang out for a minute, make sure this uploads. Don't want to mess that up, so hang on.
did you wanna